Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. World-renowned physicist and mathematician Stephen Hawking is no more. He passed away at the age of 76, leaving behind a legacy that deserves to be celebrated. One of the most brilliant minds in the world, Hawking dedicated his life to unlocking the secrets of the universe. It's he who advanced our understanding of space and time and helped shape the course of physics in the world for the last 4 decades. Besides, he was also a prolific author. In our episode today, let's explore in depth the life, times, and the rich legacy of the brightest scientific minds of the modern world. Stephen Hawking was one of the most renowned cosmologists and physicists of modern times. He helped popularize science and physics for the masses while dedicating his life to unlocking the secrets of the universe. His work on the origins and structure of the universe revolutionized the field. In this report, let's take a look at Hawking's education, career, and major achievements. Stephen William Hawking was born on 8 January 1942 in Oxford, England. Such was the coincidence that the famous modern-day scientist was born on the death anniversary of the father of modern science, Galileo Galilei. Hawking's father was a well-known researcher in tropical medicine. He wanted his son to pursue a career in medicine, but Stephen turned to the study of mathematics and physics. During his early school years, Hawking was not an outstanding student. Although his friends called him Einstein, his academic record was disappointing. But with time, he began to show considerable aptitude for scientific subjects. Inspired by British mathematician Dikran Tata, Hawking decided to read mathematics at university. In college, he became increasingly interested in physics, particularly in the study of matter and energy. In 1962, he graduated with a first-class honours in physics from the University College in Oxford. Soon after, he began his postgraduate studies at the Cambridge University. It was then that Hawking embarked upon the formal study of cosmology, the study of the universe as a whole. In early 1963, just before his 21st birthday, Hawking was diagnosed with motor neuron disease, commonly known as the Lou Gehrig's disease. This led to the weakening of his nervous and muscular systems and eventually led to his total confinement in a wheelchair. He was not expected to live more than 2 years. Completing his doctorate seemed a distant dream, but Hawking defied all odds. He not only attained his PhD in 1966, but also went on to forge new roads into the understanding of the universe in the decades since. In between, on the 14th of July 1965, Hawking married Jane Will, a friend of his sister who he met shortly before being diagnosed with the motor neuron disease. They had 3 children, Robert, Lucy and Timothy. The couple divorced in 1995 and a few months later, Hawking married his nurse Elaine Mason. His second marriage too ended with divorce in 2006. In the field of study, Hawking's major research was in the areas of theoretical cosmology, focusing on the evolution of the universe as governed by the laws of general relativity. Although he was most well known for his work in the study of black holes. In 1974, Stephen Hawking became one of the youngest fellows of Britain's most prestigious scientific body, the Royal Society, at the age of 32. 5 years later, in 1979, he was appointed the Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at the Cambridge University, the chair that was held by Isaac Newton 300 years ago. He retired from this post at the age of 67 in the year 2009. However, he continued his research at the university's Cosmology Institute. In 2008, he accepted a position as a visiting researcher at Waterloo, Ontario's Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics. Beyond these honours, Hawking earned several honorary degrees, awards, prizes and lectureships from the major universities and scientific societies of Europe and America. In January 2001, the British physicist visited India. He was awarded the first Sarojini Damodaran Fellowship by the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Mumbai, and he had been invited to attend the Strings 2001 conference on string theory. Media reports then said Hawking was impressed by the mathematical skills in India. He met then-President K.R. Narayanan and told him that mathematical skills seemed to be a national characteristic in the country. In 2015, Hawking received the 2015 BBVA Foundation Frontiers of Knowledge Award in Basic Sciences for discovering that the galaxies were formed from quantum fluctuations in the early universe. He was given the Lifetime Achievement Award for his contribution to science and British culture at the 2016 Pride of Britain Awards. He was also the subject of a 2013 documentary, Hawking, in which he reflected on his life. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Hawking was a prolific author too, helping people without a strong scientific background understand key questions of physics and human existence. In the best-selling 1988 classic, A Brief History of Time, he discusses the origins of the universe, its fundamental particles and the future. Here's a look at Hawking, the author. Hawking was perhaps the best-known scientist in the world. He did not allow his physical limitation to hinder his quest to answer the big question, where did the universe come from? It was not only his scientific research, but his ability to connect with the people that made him so popular. Hawking was a prolific author with a knack for making books on challenging scientific topics, engaging to a wide spectrum of readers. Over the years, Stephen Hawking has written or co-written a total of 15 books, most noteworthy being A Brief History of Time. It was this book, published in 1988, that catapulted Hawking to international prominence. The book became an account of cosmology for the masses and offered an overview of space and time, the existence of God and the future. The work was an instant success, spending more than 4 years on the London Sunday Times bestseller list. Since its publication, it has sold millions of copies worldwide and been translated into more than 40 languages. To make things easier for his readers, in 2001, Hawking followed up with The Universe in a Nutshell, which offered a more illustrated guide to cosmology's big theories. In 2005, Hawking authored the even more accessible A Briefer History of Time, which further simplified the original work's core concepts. In an interview to Time, when asked if it felt like huge responsibility to have people expecting him to have all the answers to life's mysteries, Hawking conceded he does not have answers to all the life's mysteries and that he could not predict human behavior. Apart from these, some of his other popular books include George and the Unbreakable Code and Other Stories. Written by Hawking and his daughter Lucy, this was a series of illustrated children's books to explain secret keys to the universe to younger readers. My Brief History, a Personal Memoir, published in 2013, in which Hawking talks about his own life. The Grand Design, this 2010 book, co-written with American physicist Leonard Mlodinow, addresses important unanswered questions regarding universe, where Hawking spoke against the idea that God could have created the universe. On the Shoulders of Giants, where Hawking writes about the great astronomers and physicists who preceded them. Apart from his books, Stephen Hawking also published many scientific papers and lecture notes. His biopic inspired Hollywood to make the movie The Theory of Everything, that won an Oscar for actor Eddie Redmayne, who portrayed Hawking in the film. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. From astronauts to world leaders, tributes have been pouring in for Stephen Hawking, the modern British physicist and author who died at the age of 76. Scientists call Hawking's life a triumph, while British Prime Minister Theresa May described him as brilliant and extraordinary. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said Hawking's grit and tenacity inspired people all over the world. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu described his death as a huge loss to the scientific world.
News of the death of physicist Stephen Hawking's death triggered an outpouring of tributes across the world. Celebrities, public figures and scientists from around the world took to social media to mourn his death. The University of Cambridge, where Professor Hawking completed his PhD, called him an inspiration to millions. Astronomer Royal Lord Rees, one of the world's most eminent scientists, described his life as a triumph. Others described him as a unique individual whose death left an intellectual vacuum in his wake. NASA said Professor Hawking's theories unlocked a universe of possibilities. It added, "May you keep flying like Superman in microgravity as you said to astronauts on the International Space Station in 2014. The inventor of the World Wide Web, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, praised Professor Hawking's colossal mind and wonderful spirit. The European Space Agency shared a photo of Professor Hawking in 2007 experiencing zero gravity aboard a plane alongside a caption which said, "He showed us there are no limits to achieving our dreams." Many have also praised his humor, with actor Eddie Redmayne, who portrayed Professor Hawking in the film biopic The Theory of Everything in 2014, calling him the funniest man I have ever met. Tributes also came from the entertainment industry. Neuroscientist and the Big Bang Theory actress Mayim Bialik, who met with Professor Hawking when he starred in an episode of the series, shared a photo of him and the cast. Professor Hawking's family said in a statement, his courage and persistence with his brilliance and humor inspired people across the world. World leaders too took to Twitter to pay tributes to Hawking. Praising Hawking, British Prime Minister Theresa May said he was a brilliant and extraordinary mind, one of the greatest scientists of his generation. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also condoled the demise of cosmologist Hawking and said that his grit and tenacity inspired people all over the world. He described Hawking as an outstanding scientist. China, too, offered condolences over Stephen Hawking's death.
我们对霍金先生不幸去世表示哀悼和惋惜，也向他的家属表示慰问。霍金先生和他做出的贡献，我相信将被永远铭记。
There was a particular outpouring of emotion in Japan. Many people said they grew up reading Professor Hawking's book.
僕自身理工学部の大学生なんですけども、なんで理工系に興味を持ったかっていうと、小学校の時に図書館にスティーブン・ホーキング博士のブラックホールの和訳された本なんですけど、ちょっと大きめな本があって、全然内容は理解できなかったんですけど、
もっといろんなワクワクするようなことを発表してほしかったなと思いました。残念です。
常人にはもう計り知れないような頭脳をお持ちの方だったと思いますので、出してちゃんと研究したこととか伝えたかったことを伝えきれたのかなというふうに思います。
Hawking made several discoveries that transformed the way scientists viewed black holes and the universe. He is survived by his 3 children, Lucy, Robert and Tim. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for a short break on the program. We'll be right back.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
Enter the majestic forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan and you'll come across the Jaipur column. A gift to the Viceroy from Savai Madho Singh, the Maharaja of Jaipur, to commemorate the creation of the new capital. The 145-meter high column is crowned with 6 pointed crystal stars on a bronze lotus, and inside the stone shaft runs a steel tube which weighs a little more than 5 tons. The base of the column has text conceived by Lord Irwin and Sir Edwin Lutyens inscribed on it.
Art arisen from a multi-hued cultural canvas. tradition and cultural fervour dating back centuries. And encircling them all, there's a magic that awes. Embrace your nation's brilliant human warmth. Watch Colours of India, Sundays at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha Television.
The prolific British poet and story writer Joseph Rudyard Kipling, one of the first masters of short stories in English. In 1894 appeared his Jungle Book, which became a children's classic all over the world. Kim, the story of Kimball O'Hara and his adventures in the Himalayas, is perhaps his most felicitous work published. Set in and concerned with India he had come to know and love so well. In 1907, Kipling became the first English language writer to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature.
Welcome back. You're watching In Depth. A distinct feature of Stephen Hawking's personality was his electronic voice and the wheelchair, and they allowed him to flourish and reach out to millions around the world. Let's take a look at how Hawking defied his disability.
A formidable mind that understood the mysteries of the universe like none other. But the state of his health contrasted cruelly with his unmatched intellect. Stephen Hawking spent over 5 decades of his life confined to a wheelchair, largely unable to speak except through a voice synthesizer, but even that couldn't stop him from his groundbreaking research. It was his iron will and curious mind that made him one of the greatest scientific minds of all times, even leading him onto a zero-gravity flight at the age of 65 in 2007.
I have long wanted to go into space, and a zero-gravity flight is the first step towards space travel. As you can imagine, I am very excited. I have been wheelchair-bound for almost 4 decades, and the chance to float free in zero-G will be wonderful. See you in zero-G.
Stephen Hawking was paralyzed by a motor neuron disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or ALS, at the young age of 21 in 1963. He was studying cosmology from the University of Cambridge at the time. Initially, Hawking had difficulty walking unsupported and his speech was mostly unintelligible. The medical diagnosis was that he had only 2 years to live. ALS is a progressive neurodegenerative disease. It affects the nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord that make the muscles of both the upper and lower body work. The nerve cells lose their ability to initiate and control muscle movement, which leads to paralysis and death. People with the condition lose control of muscle movement, eventually losing their ability to eat, speak, walk, and ultimately breathe. After being diagnosed with the disease, Hawking fell into a depression, even though his doctors advised him to continue his studies. Speaking was a challenge. However, in 1985, an emergency tracheotomy caused total loss of speech. Later, a speech-generating device built at Cambridge, combined with a software program, served as his electronic voice, allowing Hawking to select his words by moving the muscles in his cheek. In 2013, Stephen Hawking wrote in his memoirs, My Brief History, "I felt it was very unfair. Why should this happen to me? At the time, I thought my life was over and that I would never realize the potential I felt I had. But now, 50 years later, I can be quietly satisfied with my life." But instead of restricting him, it was his wheelchair that gave him wings to reach out to the hidden realms of the cosmos and formulate his eye-opening theories on the origin of the universe and the black holes. His wheelchair was as brilliant as a man himself. It became a defining part of him and his link to the world. It helped him communicate by using predictive text technology. An infrared sensor in his glasses was used to detect the movement of his cheek muscles, by which he selected the words. A speech synthesizer on the back of his chair translated written text into Hawking's distinctive electronic voice. Professor Hawking controlled all the functions of his Windows tablet PC using just a single switch. The tablet computer with an i7 processor attached to the chair also controlled all the systems of the chair itself. Stephen Hawking led a life full of challenges, battling failing health every day, but he never gave in to his disability. As he himself said, "It is a waste of time to be angry about my disability. One is to get on with life, and I haven't done badly. People won't have time for you if you're always angry or complaining." Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Hawking was one of those rare scientists who made science easy to understand, interesting and accessible to a layperson, be it his theories on aliens, black holes or time. Here's a look at some of those theories and how it changed the way we saw the world.
Professor Hawking rose to popularity after his theory on black holes.
I want to report that I think I have solved a major problem in theoretical physics that has been around since I discovered that black holes radiate thermally 30 years ago.
Hawking radiation, as it is commonly known, proved that black holes leak energy and fade to nothing. His theory transformed black holes from destroyers to creators, or at least recyclers. He also claimed that a black hole can only increase, never decrease in size. In an interview in 1978, he said, "You can ask what will happen to someone who jumps into a black hole. I certainly don't think he will survive it. On the other hand, if we send someone off to jump into a black hole, neither he nor his constituent atoms will come back, but his mass energy will come back. Maybe that applies to the whole universe." One of his most popular discoveries was the theory of everything. It is defined as a logical, theoretical framework of physics that fully explains and links together all physical aspects of the universe.
However, to a large extent, we shall have to rely on mathematical beauty and consistency to find the ultimate theory of everything.
While his take on God was understandable, being a scientist and an atheist, his theory on aliens stirred another round of conversations and debates. He said that it was very possible that in all the planets and stars that exist, there had to be some other intelligent life forms, but don't expect a friendly ET version. He said the idea that we are alone in the universe seems to be completely implausible and arrogant. If aliens ever visit us, I think the outcome would be much as when Christopher Columbus first landed in America, which didn't turn out very well for the Native Americans. He also wasn't too enthusiastic about artificial intelligence, saying success in creating artificial intelligence would be the biggest event in human history. Unfortunately, it might also be the last. It could design improvements to itself and outsmart us all. Hawking's mind probed the limits of human understanding, both in the vastness of space and in the submolecular world of quantum theory, which he said could predict what happens at the beginning and end of time. He proposed that if there is a beginning, the Big Bang, it likely will have an ending too.
Yet if, as I hope, basic science becomes part of general awareness, what now appear as the paradoxes of quantum theory will seem as just common sense to our children's children.
Professor Hawking also suggested that there could be multiple universes, not just the one we live in. But he was not one who believed in the afterlife. Following his theories, it's safe to say he is resting in peace. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The passing away of the outstanding scientist is indeed a huge loss to the world, but his legacy will continue to live on. That's it from us in this edition of In Depth. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Thanks for watching.